Welcome to the Change Energizer Hot Seat Podcast. This is a place where leaders are dropped into the hot seat to open up about high-stake wins and reveal the trust X factor behind their triumphs. I'm your host, Scott Carley, the Trust Energizer. And I believe the confidence people have in the way you show up, your character, and your expertise is a real game changer. When trust is high, people don't just perform, they pull off legendary Super Bowl wins. Today's guest is Kenn Renner from Renner Realty here in Liberty Hill. You call Kenn when you're interested in real estate investments in the Austin, Texas metro, San Antonio area. So welcome to the show. Glad to have everybody here today. Thank you for coming. So Kenn, man, glad to have you here today. Thank you for coming.
Scott, thank you for the invite. Gosh, we've known each other, I think now over 20 years. We've talked about that recently when you came and spoke at our event. And you actually was my time management coach way back in the day.
I know, man. We have come a long way in a long 20 years. And you know what? It's cool. You're still at what you're doing, but you're doing it in a very different way. And we're going to talk about that in just a little bit. So Kenn, here's what we both know. Every one of your clients, prospects, and decision makers are silently asking you a series of trust-based questions before they ever sign the deal. They may not say it out loud, but they're scanning for signals, looking for proof that you're someone they can rely on, collaborate with, and work alongside. That's exactly why I created the Trust Credit Score, a framework built around the 5 key signals of trust: your motives, your radiance and vibe, your underlying core values, your skill set and expertise, and your track record. So today, I'm putting you in the hot seat to answer some of the questions your clients are already asking, whether they realize it or not, about your professional services. So let's dive in. And you know what, Kenn, why don't you tell me what the real estate world and you are different about now than you were 20 years ago when we first met?
Well, gosh, 20 years ago when we met, that would be quite a boom that was going on in 2025 and 2020 or 2005 and 2006. But all I know is that real estate markets are cyclical. And the bottom line is that it's never going to change. It's always going to be up and then down and then up and then down. So we have to be able to ride through those changes. And so I tell people, if your realtor hadn't gone through the 07, 08 crash, then they don't know what a real bad market is like.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And I don't pay attention to the real estate market like you do, except that I've been a homeowner and seller a few times. And so, all that makes you certainly aware. But you're a tremendous person of integrity, and the Trust Credit Score, you check off a lot of the boxes. And so I wanted to give you the opportunity to tell us a little bit about what you're doing now as a real estate broker or in people who have real estate investments. Tell me about that.
Okay. So basically, what I do now is I work with a product basically is entry-level housing. And so I'm working both sides of that quotient there. So you got entry-level housing for a first-time home buyer. And then you also have that same entry-level product is an actually great rental property for our investors. Now, I kind of put this together in the mid-90s as I was teaching these home buying classes. My wife said, well, what do you think about maybe buying these as a rental? How much would they rent for? And I was saying, these make sense to become rentals. And so those two niches are very underserved, which is the first-time home buyer and the investor out of state. A lot of them, most of them are out of state, investing their capital here. So, that's the niches, and that's what I like to work, and that's what's put me on the map, really, because the riches are in the niches. And we talk about a lot of times in your trust credit score is that if you're an insurance agent, you've got life, health, and auto, right? Well, everybody has that, right? What we like to focus on is where's the underserved market, that niche that we can help serve our clients in that area and also prosper in the process.
Yeah. Oh, I love that very much. And I think it's very cool that innovation is something that I'm naturally gifted in as well. And finding the niche, looking across the real estate market and seeing, okay, first time home buyer, that's a niche. And then, investment buying. This could be a rental property. So I have a question for you.
Yes.
How do you make sure those clients, whether they're investment or whether they're first time home buyers, feel heard and supported, especially when their emotions are running high? How do you do that?
Really good question. So, first of all, it is about trust. And the way I start usually with my trust factor is education. I actually call it edu marketing. And what I mean by that is that if you sow into them and give them wisdom and knowledge and the years of expertise and all the things that we've been through as being in business to be able to help serve our clients, all the experiences that we've had, that builds a lot of trust. And so, like, I've written books on real estate. And really, I like to be able to educate my buyers, and that's how I do it. Because as I'm presenting, I'm educating as well. I call it edu marketing.
Okay, you just hit a score. I mean, your motives just scored a 10 on that one. And audience, hello, audience, pay attention to me for a second. Pay attention to Kenn for a second.
Yeah,
When you educate people and try instead of trying to sell to them, it
absolutely.
changes the whole chemistry of what's going on. So
Mhm.
I love the words that you used, and I think that makes a big deal. So I have another question for you
Okay.
about that. So, in what ways do you stay proactive with updates during the listings, negotiations, closing, market value, whether it's a first-time home buyer or an investment? How do you stay up to date with all that?
Well, it's we've been doing it for so long. Partially, there was no real set system because I can do this in my sleep. And so, but what I do is I reach out to my clients, and I also have assistants that reach out to the clients. I'm really usually talking to the clients at crucial points along the transaction, and the I have assistants that are also involved in the transaction, doing the paperwork and everything. So there's touches between my assistants, my contract coordinator, and then me. And a lot of times I get brought in when there's more of a problem to solve, as opposed to more touches along the way. So that's really, and they, my team knows that they go, if it gets to be too difficult with a client or something, I guess we're going to have to call Ken in on this. So it's nice to have a team that we're a small team, but we're really effective. So leveraging the people that are working for us, to be able to help our clients, and we've done a pretty good job at that.
Yeah. And audience, again, did you hear what he said? He doesn't do it all himself. He has a team of experts. And we're going to ask more about that a little bit later in the podcast. You want people with a team because many hands make the load light. And when one person is not just taking care of all of your needs, but 5, 6, 10, 15 other clients, spread way too thin. So again, Kenn,
Yeah.
check. Boy, you're going up the trust credit score. Way to go. I love this,
All
man.
right. Thank you, Scott. I have an acronym for teams, came up with a while ago. I speak in acronyms, but its team is trusted experts, advisors, and mentors. And
Ooh,
Scott, you've been a mentor of mine, but there's also experts that we don't have to actually have them employed by us, but we have to be able to, we can deploy them. So I have expert loan officers. I have expert CPAs. I have that know real estate. Not every CPA knows real estate. I have expert attorneys that it's a circle of help, a network of help that we've been able to put together over the years, over the decades, to make sure that all bases are covered. So I think it was Henry Ford that said that he had little buttons under his desk, right?
yeah.
And what would happen is if somebody came in and asked a question and he didn't have the answer, if it was an accounting question, he'd push a button and within 30 seconds, the account department would walk in the door and answer the question. So he goes, I don't need to have to know the answer. I just need to know where to get the answer. And with AI and everything that's going on right now, that's such a leverage tool because I don't have to search it. I don't have to know the answer. I just have to know where to get the answer.
All right, I got another question for you. It's a trust question. So, how do you protect your client's best interest when conflict arises with other agents, lenders, or even your own team? I mean, Will you stand up when, they need you to be there? Tell me how that works.
Well, absolutely. In fact, that's one of the biggest reasons you hire a real estate expert, real estate broker, is because when the things are going good, when things are going fine and everything, any real estate agent can handle that. It's when the troubles come, when the waves hit, and the waves are battering down, and there's issues going on. And I would say that what I focus on when people get, whether it be team members or clients or other realtors, when they get a little upset or a little bit on edge, we have to bring the peace. And that's what I'm really good at, is using my voice, calming everything down, and I'm always looking for win-win. And I think all those are people involved, whether it be the other agent or whether it be my client or could be their CPA I need to talk to, is that I try to bring peace and make it a win-win situation, and that kind of calms everything down, and then we can work it out together. Because if emotions run high, wrong decisions are made.
Oh, absolutely. And communication, communication, communication. We just built a house out at Regency, and it's probably, I don't know, 6 or 7 months in building. Every Thursday at 1:45, we got a 15-minute call from our builder, and he would just update us. So here's what's going on. Here's what's not going on. Here's a supply chain issue. The people who are going to do the stucco are coming in next. We'll have your cabinets in. And that communication kept us at ease the whole time. And every now and then something would pop up, but they would never withhold us. They would tell us about it.
Right.
And so that's what I hear you saying, that you're doing the same thing. I love that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's cool. So what's your approach in the investment world? What's your approach to setting expectations up front, especially around pricing, timelines, and stress points, and ROI, and all of that stuff, taxes? Tell me about that.
So once again, it goes back to education and network, the network of experts, the team of experts that we have. And so as far as the network is involved, you have all the circle of people that normally you can't get to, because they're dealing with things on a high level. And so you'd usually be talking to one of their underlings, so to speak. Fortunately, I've been doing this so long that I can pick up the phone. And the great thing about it is that they know I've been doing business so long that usually on the other side of that phone call is probably a paycheck. And so I like to keep that in mind. And that's why I call it the money phone, because they know that I'm pretty serious about business, and that I'm either calling them to give them a deal or to solve a problem. So both are super important.
I'm Scott Carley, the Change Energizer, and I am fired up to be speaking this April at the Center for Coaches in Organization Summit, better known as CCO. This powerful virtual event is designed specifically for executive and leadership coaches who want to elevate their impact. My topic is Breakthrough Kinetic Leadership, and I'll be introducing you to the Kinetic Leadership Formula for crushing barriers and fueling momentum. You'll discover the magic of moving from energy at rest to kinetic breakthrough motion, and learn exactly what it takes to get big ideas across the finish line. So grab your ticket and join me and the incredible community of coaches this April for the virtual CCO Summit. Let's get you in motion. What expectations do you set so that, they don't come back later and say, hey, man, I thought this was going to do X. That's what you told me. How do you deal with that?
Okay, so here it starts all with education. Here's what I do. I have a conversation. A lot of times these people are out of state, or sometimes even out of the country, and that's where one of my niches is. I haven't necessarily focused on investment purchasers in the Austin area as much as I have outside, because why? Those people need the help. They need the boots on the ground. They don't have the network of experts that we have here. So I start with education. I have a conversation with them, find out where they're at. That's number one, because what's your motivations, like that kind of thing? What's your urgency? Is there anything that's, those are the questions that we ask. But then we go down into what our other clients have been doing and walk them through that process. And so then I have, usually if they're out of state, I have what's called a deep dive email, which kind of shows everything that I do, and also specific markets that I work, track record and all that kind of stuff, pro formas, and it's a rather deep dive email that we send with the numbers and everything, videos and everything. Once again, a lot of my clients are engineers, so they like lots of information. I'm more of a bullet point guy, so I do both. I do bullet points, and then I give them all the stuff for those that want to study graphs and charts and watch videos and learn about it. Everything along the way is coaching the client, because here's what happens, especially in my world. If they're coached, they're comfortable, it worked out well to them, they come back and buy more. So, and even better than that, or along with that, is they tell their friends or their two friends. And that's the highest compliment you can get as a professional, as a referral from a satisfied client or customer. Yeah. So I've been, in the area that I work, Silicon Valley, they're very well networked. And so I'm leveraging their network through trust. If their client, if they bought a house from me and they trust me, they can tell their friend with confidence, this is the guy to go to. And that's built on trust, because we did the job right, because you never know. That's the other thing. I always tell my clients, the deal doesn't end when it closes and you get the keys. This is for life, because one of the values that I have is that we've changed our perspective from salespeople to destiny changers. I teach this to the other real estate agents that I teach and market to tell them, and if you're not just a salesperson selling them a house, you are a destiny changing. You're making them move like you just did to a beautiful retirement, well, let's say active adult community. You're one of the young guys, okay? I'm the OG, right? So I should be down there because we do live in the same neighborhood. But yeah, so that's basically what I express to you, is that the clients, that the trust factor is huge. And it is transferable. I actually have an acronym that I put in my books from trust, and it's actually a pyramid. And everything gets filtered through this. So I think it's pretty important. Like you said on some of those questions, where, how do you do with your team? Where are your values? How do you express those values? And here's what it is. Trust is at the bottom of it. The big foundation is truth. It's got to be built on a foundation of truth. Integrity. Integrity that's the score factor. One of your score factors, I'm sure. Integrity is super important to me. And if there's not mutual trust, and if we haven't built that mutual trust, then we're probably going to have a foundation that becomes faulty, and the whole house comes tumbling down. Once people say, "I don't trust you," it's like, that you've lost it. So because you didn't tell the truth, truth is the foundation. Next is R, respect, which is mutual respect for each other and their motives. In other words, I'm respectful of you and where I'm going to take you, and you're respectful for me for my professionalism. Without a mutual respect, it's hard to build trust. The next one's understanding, and having a mutual understanding that I understand their needs, their goals, and filter my years of experience to be able to help them solve those problems or get that next investment, but also that they understand what I do. That goes back to the education. As you can see, the pyramid goes up and it gets smaller towards the top. So the next one is once you walk the people up from that you're truthful, that you are have a mutual respect for each other, you have an understanding of what the mutual goal is here, then you reach the level of security. And security is where they're willing to give you their personal, heartfelt, they will, they could tell you anything. They're secure with giving you personal information. They're secure with referring you to people. So, and that's getting towards the top of the pyramid. It's hard to get that level of security, and I've gotten pretty good at it. And the last one, I love this one, and you're very good at this, is tethering. So I kind of call it the mountain climber climbing up the mountain. I'm the guide, right? You tie your rope to me. I've tethered myself to my clients, right? And then I help to guide them up to the goal where they're tethered to me, and if they fall, I fall, right? So that ain't going to happen. So we get to the top of the pyramid and we've got tethering. And the other tethering is they throw the rope out to the next person, and you won't get there until you have all 5 levels of trust. So I love your trust. I was so glad that you brought that and you spoke at our event, and you've got your amazing book out. You're changing lives. You're a destiny changer. So I love the trust factor, and the truth factor is super important to me.
Yeah, thank you very, very much, Ken. And I love what you came up with. I think it's very true that, and it's what I found in my research, we all have something. Most of the time it's subconscious, but it's something we learn from a parent, a mentor, somebody. And those are uh, the cornerstones that trust is built on. But many people haven't been able to put their finger on it. And when they're looking for anybody in business, like a realtor who, I've got some money and I want to invest it in real estate because real estate is always going up in value most of the
Over
time.
time.
Yeah, over time it goes up in value. That's a good investment. And to have somebody that they can have confidence in, they can trust, that is sending all the right signals, that's a place that you hold. So I commend you for that. So I want to hear a little bit more about the investment side. So you talked about, rental property.
Right now, and it's been a great niche for me, as I work with the national home builders and local home builders, because we're 4 million houses short for nationwide. We have a housing shortage. We're probably not going to pull out of a housing shortage for a long, long time. And that all started because of the 2008 Great Recession, because they stopped building basically, and we ran behind on. So according to NAR, 4 million homes short. So when you take a look at that, that's supply and demand. In other words, we're not catching up, and the population continues to grow. So, as the population grows, they need places to stay, and if they can't right now, they're looking at renting, especially in this area, and like the Bay Area is way cheaper than owning. And so what we look for is a particular square footage range, because if it's too big, it can be unruly and it costs extra money for capital expenditures and things like that. If it's too small, it's hard to rent out and the numbers don't work. So it's usually going to be around a 1,400 square foot, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, up to about 1,900 square foot, up 4-bedroom or 3-bedroom, usually 1 stories, but sometimes 2 stories. And so we know exactly where the homes are, and then we know which builders are offering the best deals, and that's what we focus on. One of the things about one of our builders are that they really kind of found out that if they help provide financing incentives to be able to lower the payment, that they're going to be able to sell a lot more homes, and that's why they are doing so. They're really doing quite well. The builders are still crushing it right now, and the resales are now having to figure out, how do we give our clients a 4.99% 30-year fixed. And so we have to educate our sellers. Hey, instead of reducing the price, maybe you should do what the builders are doing and offer 6 points, 6% of the rather than lowering the price 6%. Give it to them in financing incentives and get that payment down. There's not every builder with investors will do this, but a few of them will offer that same financing to investors, which is unheard of, that you can, in this market, get an interest rate under 5% as an investment property. So those things, the financing makes a big difference. Location, timing, and having those relationships with those builders. I build trust with the builders, their on-site agents who are the gatekeepers, with their management. Help solve that problem, and the builders respect that.
So I do want you to. I'm going to give you an opportunity now. If somebody is a first-time home buyer,
Yeah.
I want you to send a message to them. What does a first-time home buyer need to hear from Ken that will make them say, I need to call Kenn Renner and get him to get me a house?
Absolutely. 68% of buyers go with the employer, go with the first realtor they meet, regardless of qualifications, regardless of experience, regardless if they even know this market. And that's basically 2/3 go with the first person that walks across their door. I need a realtor. There's one. We'll go with him. That's not a really good way to do it. First of all those buildings are represented by sellers, whether it be the builder or whether it be the seller, the owner of the house. They all are. They have sellers. Their agents are sellers' representatives. They don't represent the buyer. And so that's what I come across, is that the number one thing is I tell a first-time home buyer, by the way, you have the right to have your own representation. And in most cases, it's paid for by the seller. Now the NAR changed the rules. It says that the sellers don't have to pay it, but that was always the rule anyway. So we're not really sure. But the bottom line is the buyer can pay the commission usually, and I know with all builders I know, the builder pays the commission. So your cost for my representation is already paid for in the sales price of the house. So the bottom line is if you don't use a buyer's agent to represent you, the builder keeps the difference, right? So it's a win-win with the builders because they don't mind paying me a commission, and here's why. I've sold 22 houses in one neighborhood in 1 year. You may only buy one house in a lifetime from this builder. So I continually bring more and more buyers, and they're investors, and they're usually high net worth. They close on time, and they're putting 25% down. The builders are like, call Ken.
Yeah. So do you go through a process where the first time home buyer, I mean, they don't even know what they want. What do you mean? Do I want sliding doors or a garage, two-door garage, or what? Do you help them figure out what they want in their first house?
Thank you. This is my revised edition of Home Buying Secrets. Very proud of this. We just released it this last month. I wrote this book 15 years ago. And you know why I know that is because my daughter is 15 years old, and my wife was pregnant with her when I wrote this book. So so this has helped thousands of people through the process. And this is basically based on my home buying crash course. And so what I did is I created 100 or answered 160 questions that everybody asks. I give these out at my presentations. Everything I do for the home buyers, the crash course, the book, it's all free. And that builds a reciprocity that, gosh, when I go in and I do a 10 steps of the home buying process and why they need to buy real estate, the light bulbs go off. And that's actually that's my satisfaction that I'm seeing people is that I never thought I could do this. And now you're saying I can do it now, even with my credit or whatever it is. That's really really exciting for me where I didn't think I could do it, and Ken made a way for me. And that's why I still like work. They still get a thrill out of first time home buyers is because their eyes bright, they're brighten up, and I go, I can do this. I literally had people walk in and say I couldn't do this, and they were signing a contract to purchase the house the next day.
Audience, are you listening to this? Pick this up. This is the man you want to talk to. Way to go. Now, Ken, talk to our investors that are out there. They got money and they're thinking about investing in real estate. Why should they call you? And what do they need to know before they pick up that phone?
Well, so first of all, is because I've been serving that market, and it's an underserved market for so long. There's very few agents that specialize in investment properties. Most of the realtors are traditional realtors, and I'd say less than 5% of realtors actually specialize in it, being generous. Actually, I can tell you that more like I would say that 90% of realtors don't own investment property, and a good percentage of them don't even own their own home. So that's one of the things I'm like when I'm telling people to buy a particular property or presenting it to them. I always say, if I wouldn't tell you anything I wouldn't buy myself. And they go, well, let me see what do you? I go, I own that one. Driving down the street, I own that one. And like, oh, okay, you're like a stock broker that buys his own stock recommendations. I go, yeah, that's trust, right? I'm not just somebody selling a property. I'm actually buying the same product that they're going to be looking at, and that brings the level of trust up.
Yeah, audience, I don't know if you heard this. He eats his own cooking. Okay, so one of the things that I've learned when I get advice from people who already have what I'm looking for. Right. So this is a man that's already got investment properties. He can walk you down that path. He's already been through the first time home buyer process, wrote a book about it. And so this is a check. We're just checking off the trust credit score here. So Ken, how can people get a hold of you? What's the best way? Tell our audience how they can find you.
Well, it's really easy. My dad kind of had a spelling error in my name, so it's Ken with two N's. Renner with two N's, R-E-N-N-E-R. And actually, Renner is spelled the same way backwards. I think there's a name for that, a kind of palindrome or something like that. So that's how you can remember me. You can Google my name and you can find all the things about me. But buyaustin.com is my URL for my basically the mothership of what I got. It talks a lot about investing, and then the home buying crash course, which I revived because I revised the book, and this is where the market is, because first time home buyers start the cycle back up of people buying, and that's what's going to happen this year. They're going to come out of the woodworking and they're going to buy. Guess what? I'm positioning myself to be the expert for those home buyers coming back into the market. They don't know what they're doing. They need help. And so it's been always a really good journey. And since 2020, I've sold over 500 single family homes.
Oh, come on. Did you say that again? Since 2020, you've sold.
The last 5 years, I sold over 500 homes with a very small team. And it's just because of years of experience and knowing exactly where to throw the dart when it comes to investments. And then as far as the first time homebuyers, actually, I hate to say it, Scott, but that market that dried up in the pandemic. None of the homebuyers, first time homebuyers especially, couldn't compete. So waiting for the market to cycle around, now we're back out. Okay, homebuyers, you've been hibernating too long. The interest rates are coming down, and maybe the builders will pay your interest rate down in the fours. Let's get out there and buy a house.
Yes, absolutely. And I can validate that. My son just bought his first house. He's 27, 28 years old. Yes, it can be done. Is it easy? Well, I'll let you ask him, but it can be done. So Ken, thank you very much for being on.
Scott, one more thing about that.
Oh, yeah.
I love working with the next generation. Do you know that I'm selling homes to people that bought homes from me, and now I'm selling homes to their children.
Yeah.
And I'm also really excited about when they buy an investment first time is a great investment property too, the first one. But I love it when their parents say, son, I think you, instead of buying that Tesla, why don't you put that money towards a house and let it grow? Because a Tesla's, great car as is, it's going to go down in value. And so those are the kinds of things I love, is when the next generation gets it. And a lot of this next generation does like real estate. So we're now into a whole new cycle of buyers, and a whole new set of families that are coming up and growing up. We got to take care of those folks because they're the biggest demographic of home buyers that ever hit the market. So let's get in front of them. Get your kids to buy a home, not buy the car.
Yeah. Well, thank you very, very much, Ken, for being my guest today on the hot seat. And you've just done really great. Check, on the Trust credit score. And yes, I want to thank you for being here today. If you haven't already subscribed, please go up and do that. And if you enjoyed what you saw today and enjoyed being a part of it, we are taking the Trust Energizer hot seat live on tour, designed for conferences, leadership retreats, and companies that want something more than just a typical keynote. Placed front and center as an opening or closing session, the hot seat puts one of your respected leaders in the spotlight, not to embarrass them, but to showcase high trust leadership in action. Together, we walk through the real questions clients and teams are already asking, and the audience gets a powerful, unforgettable model of what trust actually looks like under pressure. So if you're looking for a high energy, professionally facilitated and built to spark real conversation about credibility, culture, and results, get in touch with me, Scott Carley, the Trust Energizer. And until our next show, thank you very much for being here, and we're looking forward to seeing you soon.